All right, well, I want to thank everyone for joining. Like I mentioned, I've muted the line. There's a lot of people online, so I didn't want any background noise or interruptions during the presentation, but you will be able to ask questions during the webinar. So thank you for joining our Did You Know series of webinars. You may have watched some in the past, and today we're doing another one on PADS VX2. That was just released recently, back in, I believe it was July. So a little bit of an introduction here on Oasis Sales. Hopefully you've heard of us and have contacted either myself or Kyle Lake, our other application engineer, or one of our account managers for help or assistance, or you've bought your tools from us. But we are a full solutions provider of electrical engineering and mechanical engineering tools from Mentor Graphics, which is now owned by Siemens. So now we carry the complete portfolio from mechanical engineering all the way through manufacturing. Oasis Sales is based out of Phoenix. We've been around for 16 plus years, or actually 20 plus years. We've been a partner with Mentor Graphics for 16, and we just recently joined the Siemens realm earlier this year after the announcement of Siemens buying Mentor Graphics was announced. Quick introduction to our team. Mentioned earlier, Kyle Lake is one of our application engineers. He's based out of Portland. Myself as well. I've been with Oasis for, it's been 12 years, I think, here next month. So many of you may have spoke to me in the past. Then we have our sales team, Derek Pop up in the Northwest, Lizzie Marsh in the Midwest, Andy Bowe in the North Midwest, and we have Pete Achilleos down in Texas and Oklahoma, Rick Truza up in the Northern Midwest or East section, and then Jason Johnson in our West as well. And then we have our inside team, Dennis and Fawn. They share the entire territory. They're the ones that mainly deal with the PADS, but you may work with one of the account managers that I've mentioned already. Just so you know, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to use the chat window in the GoToMeeting panel. This is the best way to ask me questions because I want to keep the line muted as this is being recorded. But feel free to do it anytime during the presentation, and then we'll address those at the end of the presentation. And if like I said, we've been doing these Did You Know webinars since the beginning of the year. These are some of the past ones that we've done that have been very popular. If you haven't seen one of these before, you can just go to our website, oasissales.com, Oasis Events, and you can click on the View Now to review any of those, or you can go to our Oasis Sales YouTube channel, which we'd like you to do as well, and please become a subscriber where you can watch these videos and many others that are available to you. So today, our feature webinar is going to be, did you know with the new VX2 release, we've given you what you've asked for. So Mentor really concentrated on what customers requested in this release, and I'm going to go over all those highlights here starting now. So Mentor does listen to you, the user. So you do have a say in what gets put or added to the PADS and DX Designer flows. Okay, so we want to hear your feedback. If you haven't done this, I'm going to show you here how to do it. It's called Mentor Ideas. You create the objects or the ideas. You come up with the ideas. You can post them on the Mentor Ideas website. You can look at other people's ideas and have them vote on yours, or you can vote on theirs. And every single release that comes out, there's always something from Mentor Ideas that's been placed in that release. This one happens to be just a bigger list of those. So let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. If you haven't been to SupportNet, this is the new SupportNet website for Mentor Graphics. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom down here, there's Mentor Communities. Okay, and if you're a PADS customer, or any Mentor customer, hopefully you've created an account so you have access to this wealth of information out here, because there is a lot of information on SupportNet. But you click on Mentor Ideas right here on the community's website, plus the community's website allows you to talk to other users in different categories of applications. Mainly everyone in here is a PADS user, but you can just search for PADS items. So if you click on Mentor Ideas, it's going to take you to the main Mentor Ideas page, and then you can see the different product categories that are you can enter ideas for. You click on the PADS one. It's an introduction to Jim Martins. If you haven't met him, he's the product marketing manager for the PADS tools. But you can search for different things that people have added to the website. Let me go back to the presentation here. I actually have a screenshot of that there that shows you the current ideas that have been posted out there, plus you can create your own idea based on what you feel the tool needs for you to be more productive or to make your job easier. Okay. All right, well, let's move on to some of the things that have been added into VX2.x. This release came out earlier this year. I wanted to cover some of these because a lot of people don't read the release highlights that come out with the tool. So I just wanted to show you that even the VX2 0 and 1 releases were pretty big for the PADS tool flow. So some of the things that were added were copper pour improvements. They've taken the Expedition engine that's used in the enterprise level tool, and they've brought that into PADS to make the flooding and copper pour generation much faster than it has been in the past. And there's some cool stuff that's going to be coming in VX2.3, which will be released early next year, that you'll hear about as more news about that release is released to the public. But you can see all the service requests that were addressed in the last two releases. So Mentor is listening to you guys. When you enter service requests on Mentor's website, they are looking at those, and they're picking off the top ones that people are reporting, and they're fixing those issues. So we do listen to you guys, the users, for each release. Removal of unused PADS has had a lot of service enhancements made and bugs fixed. ODB++ export improvements, PDF output improvements. Let's see, addressing gaps between netlist and integrated flow. I don't know how many people out there are using the integrated flow with PADS, but it's kind of the wave of the future for the PADS and DX Designer flow. It's the same flow that the Expedition tools use, so it provides better library integration and integration with a lot of the other tools that Mentor has, like hyperlinks, library management, things of those nature. So some new things have been added there, mainly like associated nets and virtual pins. This kind of disappeared for a little while in the integrated flow, but they've brought it back. This helps out a lot when you're doing a lot of high-speed routing in the PCB tool. More board clearances, copper clearances. We've added IPC 258 2581 output capability. This is starting to be requested, obviously, by a lot more people. Even though ODB++ is really kind of the standard, or should be the standard out there in the industry. Obviously, IPC kind of adopted the ODB++ to make the standard. They just added more to it. Some CAM output improvements, and we added a PADS multi-trace HSD routing option. So those people out there that didn't want to buy the full PADS advanced option functionality because they didn't need full, like the chip on board, they didn't want DFT, some of the other things that are included in that, they just wanted to be able to match traces from a group level instead of what is provided already in PADS router. You can now add on a lower cost option to just do length matching of differential pairs and traces in a group. Some additional things, PADS 3D display control dialog improvements, remapping of step models in the library. So what they had done is previously to 2.x, you had to map models on a per design basis. Now you can map the models in PADS layout, and you can force those back into your central library in the integrated flow. By the way, this is an integrated only flow feature, so that from that point forward, when you bring parts into a design, they already have the models assigned to them. So you're not having to keep redoing that process. And then we've made a lot of translator migration improvements. So those coming from Cadence, OrCAD, Altium, and some other tools. There's been quite a bit of improvements to the translation tools that we provide for you for free. Data book improvements. With any of the suites that you buy now, there's full database support, so we're no longer limiting it to Excel spreadsheets and Microsoft Access. You can now tie Databook to any SQL database, MySQL, Oracle, any type of database that's out there that's ODBC compliant. And then there are some PADS Logic improvements for those that are still using the PADS Logic tool, which there are many of you that haven't migrated over to DX yet. Saw some new features in the tool and defect fixes as well. All right, let's move on to the new VX.2.2 release. Hopefully many of you out there have downloaded and installed this version to take advantage of some of these new capabilities. If you're using the integrated flow, you're definitely going to want to do that. This is one of the big ones, actually, is being able to move stuff around between libraries a lot more easily than previously. So in the expedition flows of the tool, they had a feature called library services that allowed you to move content from library to library or within portions of the library. Well, they've added that into the PADS realm now, so you can copy, move, delete items within your library very easily using the library services feature. It's just a button up here on the top. I believe it's that guy right there. It opens up this dialog box that then allows you to start importing, exporting content from a library to another library or within the same library itself. So this is, again, going to make the process of moving library content around a lot easier for you. PADS layout. Many of you have asked for better length control through passive components in the tool. Previously, the tool would not calculate length based on the component. It would just calculate based on the trace length going into the pin of the part. This now has been updated to actually take into account the component that's being used, the resistor or the capacitor. So how is that being done? Here's a little graphic that shows you here's a passive component in an electrical net. What it does is it now knows the length of a component, and it just basically divides that part in half and takes that into account when reporting length information. Okay. If you're using the integrated flow in CES, this was actually being accounted for in CES. It just wasn't being shown to you in the properties dialog boxes in PADS layout or in PADS router. So now when you go into router and you look at an electrical net, this might be what you saw before for length information. Well, this is now what you're going to see today. So it's taking into account the full component, which is the true electrical length of that net as it goes through the passive component. Okay, this is a very powerful capability for doing a lot of length matching that people doing high-speed design out there are doing today. So take advantage of this feature. All right, there have been some improvements to obviously the 3D space. There's always going to continue to be improvements on the 3D tool that's inside of PADS, because basically anything that happens from the expedition side of the flow generally is going to happen on the PADS side because it uses the same architecture and code for doing that. So what we're allowing you to do now is map alternate 3D models to a footprint. Okay, so you can now insert more than one 3D model for that associated decal, so that you can alternate between those if needed. A good example might be a tantalum capacitor for like a 7032 part. Okay, now you could put more than one model on there for different heights of the component, or different widths of the component, or for just general passive components in general. Capacitors come in many different sizes, obviously. So a small part on an 0805 might be, 60 thousandths tall, but a larger capacity part might be a tenth of an inch tall or so. Now you can have step models that fully represent that item stored with that component, and then you can switch them out in the layout. Okay. Plus, they've added some more alignment and support features. With VX2, they added the capability of snapping components to the footprint, so you no longer had to try and use dimensions or XY values to position the part. You could select on surfaces and have it snap into location. Well, now they've added some more alignment features to allow you to easily align that component with that footprint. So it takes a lot of the work out of doing that. All right, some other user enhancements, Variant Manager inside of PADS Designer. By the way, the XDX Designer tool has been renamed by Mentor. Marketing people love to come in and change up the names every once in a while. So they've renamed it to PADS Designer, and in the Expedition flow, it's called Expedition Designer, kind of obvious. So two different names, but exactly the same tool in both environments still. So the Variant Manager tool that comes with the PADS Standard Plus and Pro suites allows you to basically create BOM variants right from within the schematic. A lot of customers we talk to want to do this capability. If it's one design or multiple assemblies, you have this ability to do this. It is only in PADS Designer. It is not in PADS Logic. So you do need to start using the PADS Designer schematic tool if you want to take advantage of this feature. But it greatly reduces the amount of time it takes to deal with variants. And I'll just show that real quick for people that haven't used it before in the tool. To activate, you just go to the View menu, Other Windows. You click on Variants. It will open up a little add-in window just like DX Databook. Here it is right here. I'm going to reposition this down here. I can add a new variant to that. Click OK. And basically, I can keep adding as many variants as I want. And this allows me to go in and I can substitute a component with replace, or I can unplace a component. So take advantage again of this feature if you're using PADS Standard Plus or Pro. It's there for you. It's just part of the tool. But what happened here is we've added some capability of passing and variant information across into PADS layout. So when you do your assembly variant drawings in PADS layout, you're getting that content from the schematic. All right. And if anyone out there is doing scripting, you can also access variant data via scripting to assist with any automation that you want to create. Next thing, they've updated the CAM output capabilities. They've improved the plane generation engine within CAM output for improved quality. They've updated Gerber capabilities, and they've added a new CAM integrity check. So when you open up the CAM documents window, it does some integrity checking on your data before you move forward. Just to highlight here as well, there is a bunch of new stuff coming in the CAM space here in next year's release, so look for that as well. And then ease of use improvements. They've added some ViewNet capability, support for undo commands in layout-driven integrated projects, logging of messages, migration of height and geometry.height information into the integrated flow. ViewNet's dialog improvement was added. This was, again, these are all user enhancements. So people wanted to be able to color the entire net instead of just the pin or via for a given net using the View Nets dialog box. You can now enable to color the actual trace as well in the PADS layout and PADS router as well. Okay. Paste mask improvements, associated copper for through-hole components was improved. 3D modeling, rotation, and alignment fixes. I kind of mentioned that one already. DXF import changes and how line width information is considered when you bring in a DXF. I don't know how many people out there are still using DXF import into PADS. Hopefully everyone's using IDF import. It's a much better streamlined process. You can actually bring in parts and board outline data. But, you know, sometimes you want to use a DXF drawing as a template. We're also going to be, obviously, Siemens owns two of the best mechanical engineering tools in the industry today, NX and Solid Edge. You're going to be seeing a lot of new integration when it comes to mechanical engineering and PCB interfacing here in the near future. So watch that as well. And for anyone interested in looking at Solid Edge, please let us know. We can help you out with the evaluations and such on that. And we're doing some great offers right now related to that. Via stitching for copper over copper in different layers has been fixed. There's some bugs in that area. Change of component outline display when multiple shapes are overlapping. So no longer does it just look like the two lines are merging. It kind of uses the transparency feature kind of in PADS layout that was there already, but it does this inherently in the tool now, just so you can see when parts are overlapping with each other. Let's move on to schematic related benefits or new functionality that was added into the tool. So new display control. This is actually technology that's being adopted from Expedition to help you control and customize and make it a lot easier to display, not display or data in your schematic tool. Okay, again, a lot of tools, pretty much every tool in the industry makes you open up, you know, dialog boxes, you know, to get to the display control information. This is just an add-in window that pops up inside of PADS Designer. So I'm actually going to show this real quick because it's some neat technology that if you're not a Expedition user, many people don't know or aware that's out there. So up here on our add-in toolbars, there's a display control icon now. What I've done is I've added this into one panel. Obviously, when you open this the first time, it's going to be sitting over here in its own window. But one of the nice features of PADS Designer is being able to merge windows together to your liking. By the way, I've just mentioned that one real quick. They added in, I think it was VX2, they've added display saving your configurations in the tool now. So you can now save different configurations of your window display and switch between them as needed. So if you click on this little button here, it brings up a window, you type in the name for it, and however you have your toolbars and your windows displayed, it will now save that into configuration, so you can switch between different configurations if you like. All right, so let's get back to the display control options here. So I can turn pin arrows on and off. Probably don't know what pin arrows are because many people don't look at it, but if on your symbols you place input, output information on the pin, you can have these little arrows show up so that you know if this pin is an input or an output. I can turn that on and off now in the display control. You used to have to go into setup settings in order to do that, but now it's very quick and easy with the display control option here. You can turn tooltips on and off now quickly. I can show net names of text and such very quickly. So it just makes it a lot easier for you to just turn these functions on and off without having to go back to set up display control and search through it through here, because many of these display features are in different locations in here, where now it's all in one place. Okay. Another advantage of this add-in window they're taking from technology from Expedition again is I can search for stuff. If I don't know what I'm looking for, and this is going to get, they're just going to add to this more in the future, so that's why I'm pointing this out. But if I need to, I can't find what I'm looking for, I can type in, say, pin up here, and it will highlight or find that item for me, and then I can use the down arrows, and it will find every location where the word pin is. So it's like a little built-in help system for you to find objects in the display control. There's also properties control. So when a component comes in, I have global property control capability. There's a lot in that list, so you're probably going, well, can I turn everything on and off at once? And yes, you can. So I can uncheck all items in here, and you'll notice that my attributes on my component is turned off, and I can turn them all back on again. These are global settings. You obviously have per part control just by going to the properties window, and I can check the little box next to it if I want to turn that property on or off individually by component. Okay. By the way, this is, for those that don't use PADS Designer, this is a huge automation feature of the tool that makes it a lot easier to use than Logic or any other CAD tool in the system, actually, is being able to view your properties through an add-in window without having to open up a dialog box. You know, I can click on a net, have it show me something. I can click on a component. I can click on a piece of text. Everything shows up in this properties window. So you have it right at your fingertips. All right. Some other automation through this window is I can hide features that I'm not going to be using. So if I know I don't care about leader line information, or I don't care about color by net, I can hide that and not have it show up in this display control. And lastly, I can save off display control settings. So if I hide a bunch of stuff for one situation that I'm working on, I can save that off. Then I can come back to a different configuration that shows everything again. Same goes with the properties. Again, a lot of technology and automation built into this. It comes from the Expedition enterprise level environment. Okay, let's move on to the next item here. Replace part property mapping. This has always been something that's been a little bit difficult, or not the most straightforward inside of PADS Designer, is replacing a part. They've now added a lot of new functionality to this function in VX.2.1. They've completely revamped the replace feature in the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and show this. If I right click over our component now and hit replace part, it brings up this add-in window. Again, I can move this over here since I'm working on a single screen. I don't want a lot of windows in my workspace. I can get to them with tabs down here. But now I have the replace feature here with this new window. There's different scopes that you can decide on how you want to replace this part. If I do it by project, you'll see it'll tell me all the exact same part numbers that are in this design. Or I can, in this case, it comes up as that single instantiation in my design. So I'm only going to be updating this one part. Part number searching. Again, most people probably haven't used this. This is a really cool function. If I go into DX Databook here and search for a new part that I want to replace that one with, I can just drag that symbol over into that field, and it adds that part number information into that location. So now I can do an update on that component. All right. But the new functions that were added are down here at the bottom: the pin mapping and properties mapping. So this allows you, this is probably a little bit more if you're doing a complete part replacement. This resistor is kind of a simple example. But if you're doing IC replacements, you can decide how the nets are going to be remapped between those two components, and it gives you all the options related to that. And then property mapping, this allows you to decide what happens with properties that are on the part already versus what's coming from DX Databook. I can do schematic wins, or I can do library wins, or I can do library only, meaning many of the attributes on this part don't actually exist in the library or from Databook. So it's actually going to delete them and replace them with new information. So if I want to keep all that though, I would just do library wins. It leaves all the existing stuff that's on there and it overwrites the ones that are the same. So again, you never had this capability before. The tool just did it automatically based on what was ever hard-coded in the tool. Now we're providing you with options to control this attribute plate replacement based on your requirements. Okay. Let's go to the next item. Instantiation of components enabled in the new search window. Again, the new search window was introduced with VX.2.1. Now they're basically migrating some DX databook functionality into the search window. So you're basically going to have one window for doing a lot more functions. So it was first introduced just for doing searching. So down right here in my right-click menu, I have a search option, or I can go to the edit menu, find and replace, and search is located there, the shortcut key. But let's review some of the things in the search window here real quick, because we didn't do a webinar on this earlier. And again, many people don't go to SupportNet or read the release highlights and play with some of the new things that pop up in these tools here. So there's several tabs down here at the bottom, and you can control these if you want to close them or open them. It's completely up to you. There's a little X there to close it. You can add more in from here. But the design all, this basically shows all the content in the design. I can search for buses, nets, pins, text. This basically replaces the old search function, which again was okay, but it was not the easiest thing to use by any means. This definitely improves the user interaction and the ability to find stuff very quickly. Or some people might say, well, you used to have the ICT viewer. That is still here. You can use the ICT viewer for finding nets and such, but this is, again, in my opinion, wasn't the greatest implementation of being able to find stuff. So it's nice to see this new feature because it makes the whole process of finding things in your design much faster. So up here in the search window, you can type in part of something and it will automatically go search for anything that has that text in it. You can use wildcard characters like star and question mark, but notice it automatically started searching without me hitting anything, and it found everything that started with IMP in it. Okay, and all right, you can make it cross probe within your design. So if I double click on that net, it goes and finds it for me and shows me the area that net is in. Okay. We can look for parts in the design. Notice this already came up with something on it because the tool actually remembers everything you type in. So you can refresh the search, you can clear it. But it found the reference designator 102 for me. I have multiple things I can search for again here though, components and pins to help me find that object that I'm looking for. Again, when you double click on the part, it goes and finds it for you. Like I said, they're working on migrating DX Databook stuff into here. So this is another advantage you have in the search window is when you click on the part in here, you can see the symbol and the footprint that's being used in your design in this preview window. Okay. And these things can be turned on and off if you don't want to see them via the settings here. You can turn off the preview if you don't want to see any of that. Okay. Design nets, you can search for nets. Library, I can search directly into the library to find parts, or this is also the databook functionality. So now I'm seeing and can search by very much like I would in DX Databook. So here's Databook, here's the search feature. This basically replaces the search function that was in the previous add component. Actually, if I go back to Databook here and click on CL view, it's basically replacing this search feature here. Okay, so now you have a much more intuitive way of looking for stuff. I can click on different partitions to search through, type in the criteria that I want to search on, or click in one of these fields. I can also get a list of items that are in one of those fields, and I can click on it that way and search for it. Again, if you select that item, you can see the library content that's on that item before you add it into your design. Okay. General searching, this is just general information within the design that you want to look for, attributes, anything. Okay, so let's see, let me open up the verification window. This is just like the data book verification feature. This allows me to now verify all the components in my design. You can see it does it automatically. I don't have to click on a button to do that. You do have verification options here, just like in the data book tool. But when I click on a part, again, it gives me that symbol and preview. If for some reason something has a zero match, or if you want to replace that part, you can do that by right-clicking and hit visit. It will go find that part in the design for you so that you can see it in the actual design. Or again, I can right-click, redo a search. It finds the information again through the data book tool and allows me to see that, and I can research for it if I want. I can remove a property and type in a new property to find a different component. All right, so this is, again, some of the new capability in VX.2.2 that was added into this search window that allows you, instead of having data book open, I need to check into the licensing on Databook, whether or not the search feature requires or pulls the Databook license when you use this feature, but and you don't have to have this Databook window open in order to do verification in your design anymore. You can just use the search window to do that. All right, let's move on to the next item here. Verifying components. Actually, I just showed that. I kind of did both slides here at once. But again, I can do verification of my parts at any point in time using the search window for either a page or hierarchically or for a particular component. You get to control that through the right-click or menu options in that window. All right, and some other miscellaneous ideas that were added into the tool: allow variants to substitute different symbols. This one's been asked for quite some time. When I do a variant update on a part, let's say I want to place a resistor with a capacitor, it's using the exact same footprint. You can now have Variant Manager replace the resistor symbol in your schematic with a capacitor symbol. All right, allowing disconnect of nets from the right-click menu. A slot command was added. This was actually something that used to only be able to be done via a command line feature, but now you can do this actually in the properties window. So if I go to the properties window, now there's a slot option here. So if I have multi-gated parts, I would get all the options here, and then I can use this to swap out one gate with another. Okay, so that's kind of again, a nice user enhancement to make the process of swapping gates a lot easier at the schematic level. Deleting borders, inserting borders used to you could only do this by a page in the tool previously. Now you can do it globally. So you can delete all the borders in the design globally. You can insert the borders all globally. Okay, so if you just right-click on the page, you can do change border, and then you have the options down here of how to apply the changes based on sheet, project, level of hierarchy, and such. So again, we're giving you a quick automation capability of updating your designs very rapidly when an unexpected design change comes about. Of course, that part can be really nice if you're copying a project to start a new design from. You can update the title blocks if you want to use a different one. All right, not sure how many people out there are using PartQuest. If you are using PartQuest, I wouldn't mind you letting me know. So if you could type in the little chat window whether or not, yes, I'm using PartQuest, or no, I'm not. or even give me some feedback on the tool to see what types of issues you might be having, or what you think could be added into the tool even. As you know, PADS has always had the library part wizard tool that was a acquisition and added in the application. They're now revamping that, and they're moving it into an online application. So you're now going to be able to create both symbols and footprints via the PartQuest tool. Okay, so again, we're expanding the capability of that PartQuest application. I'm going to show this a little bit more in detail here, but this is just a quick little screenshot of the symbol editor that's going to be inside of PartQuest. And then there's the library tool itself. So if you're used to using LP Wizard, that technology is now being brought into this web-based tool for you to generate parts. The nice thing is they've updated it to include more 3D, realistic looking model creation. And at some point, it's not there yet, but will allow you to actually download the 3D step model that the tool is physically creating. And you'll see that here in this little video that I'm going to show. So let me show you a quick little video here that was created by Mentor Graphics on the new PartQuest functionality, mainly for just the library control here. So I would say, again, hopefully people have been using it. It's a free resource to all Mentor Graphics customers. You go to partquest.com. We are currently only tied into DigiKey, but they will be adding more vendors. You can basically search for something inside of DigiKey. It pops up a list of all those parts. You choose a part that you want. It gives you that information. You can click on the symbol options down here at the bottom. If there is a part available, it's made by Advanced Designs. If there's not one, you can click on Create Part, and then it takes you into the wizard, which is fully IPC 7351 compliant. Just like the LP Wizard tool was. You can click, there's going to be more models added here, by the way, as time goes on, but currently the small outline one is the only one that's available, but this is continuing to be vamped. But just like in LP Wizard, you type in the information from the data sheet. In fact, you can click on the data sheet link there. That'll be shown here in a second. You can open that so for viewing, so that you can copy the information off of there right into the cells. It would be nice in the future. I'm hoping that Mentor actually just allows you to pull data in from the data sheets, but not all data sheets are that simple to view. So here it's showing you how you're defining the pin in a 3D representation of that pin and how it adds it to the part. So again, based off the geometry of the data sheet, you enter the numbers and it calculates the pin geometry and type for you based on your selection, adds it to the model. You can choose the material that model is made out of, because now we're allowing you to add mass information to the part. That's being added for an additional shock and vibration tool that we have. But here it's showing the footprint created with the 3D model sitting on it. You can choose the different conditions, IPC conditions, nominal, most, and least, just like you could in LP Wizard. So you can change the footprint pad geometry based on your requirements for manufacturing. Okay, and you'll see this is just like a little wizard that you're going through. Again, you have full 3D zooming, panning, spinning control, so that you can view the information that you've created. Once you've clicked OK, that part is now associated to that component. You can download the content into your central library at this point, and now use that part in your design. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop that here, and I'm going to go kind of show this a little bit as well. So I have PartQuest open. I'm going to just search for a component here in the search window. You do have to have a Mentor Graphics SupportNet account, by the way, to use this tool. So when you create your login, you'll be asked for that. But here I can click on a part. I can see the information on that part. Down here at the bottom is the choose symbol or footprint option. This part happens to have a component on it. That's actually one that I made earlier that I was playing around with. But if I click on that, Again, I can choose the generic symbols that are available to me, or I can make my own. So if I hit edit on this part here, it's going to take me into the symbol editor that is part of this tool now, where I can go in and modify this part. I can delete these pins off of here if I don't want them anymore. You do have the capability of importing pins as well. It's not showing it here. There you can import a CSV file in here. So if you want to create the content in Excel, you can import that into this window. You can create fractures. So if anyone's used the symbol wizard in PADS Designer, this is kind of replicating the symbol wizard functionality, but now I'm doing it online versus doing it through the central library tool. Okay, so let me return back to PartQuest, and I'll show you the footprint one here real quick as well. Again, the tool remembers what you've done last, so when I go into here, I can say create a footprint. It says edit now because I've gone through this process a couple times, but it basically has all the information that I typed in last time already entered in. So if I continue on through the process, you're going to see the different views. There's the pin view that I'm creating to put on this component. All right, you can choose different pin types. Continue to move forward. Again, you can choose the body information for that part by entering the dimensions, the nominal or the footprint conditions that you want to use on this part. Oh, looks like I left something off there that's important to the wizard, but that's why we're not seeing a footprint here. But just wanted to give you a quick introduction to this. If you're not using PartQuest again, we do actually have a video on our Oasis YouTube channel for how to set up PartQuest and start using that tool. Feel free to go there and look at the playlists and find that video on setting up PartQuest so you can start taking advantage of this free resource for you. But again, this is new in VX.2.2. They're going to, again, be continuing to expand on this capability. There's a lot of new feature functionality coming in later this year, beginning of next as well. All right. All right, well, that concludes what I had to talk about on the VX2.2 release. Everything that I showed you were user requests from Mentor Ideas. So please take advantage of the Mentor Ideas site and get some of your input in the tool that you like to use on a daily basis. So just to recap, the webinar information will be emailed to you as part of registering for this. This YouTube video or this webinar is recorded and will be available from our YouTube channel. As a bonus for attending this webinar, we're offering 25% off on any PADS suite if you want to add one or option. Just give Fawn Chang a call at this number or send an email. Using this code, you'll be able to get 25% off on anything you buy in the PAD space up through September 30th. So that's kind of a thank you for attending our webinar and trying to take advantage of some of the newer technology that we have available for you in the PADS design flow. All right. Our next webinar is going to be on signal integrity issues that you may not really know you have. A lot of people deal with simple PCBs. They don't think they have issues with signal integrity, but a lot of the components today will prove otherwise. So please mark your calendars or go register for October 19th webinar and how to take advantage of the signal integrity tools that come in your standard Plus and Pro applications or suites, or you can add on to the tool. So there's Fawn's contact information again, fongchang at oasissales.com. You can find it on our website as well. Let me go ahead and see what we have here for questions. I saw several pop up while I was doing the webinar. So what do we got here? We had a question about interest in hearing PADS 3D changes, in particular remapping of step files, and if this is possible. Yes, it is possible. remap. And as I mentioned before, you can include multiple step models now per part in the tool. So, and what I'll probably do is create another little video and showing how to use this feature versus taking up time here. So look for a possible video on our YouTube page. Again, subscribe to our YouTube page to see that. Okay. Where can I get an exact document that you're presenting? There should be one emailed to you when you receive a follow-up email from us later on today regarding this webinar. If not, you can always watch the YouTube video, or you can ping me directly at brent.klingforth@oasissales.com. My contact info can be found on the Oasis website. Does a new part replace work in the netless flow? You know what? I have not verified that, but the replace part should work in a netless flow. Let's, I can experiment with that one real quick. Let's just create a new, actually I have a netless project here in recent. Let me just open this real quick. Take a second while we switch projects here. Okay, there's my new page. Let me just throw a part in here real quick. And click on replace. No, it does not look like the new replace feature is part of netless flow. That one's a new one on me. So this is the old search and replace feature that was in the tool. Even if I go to find and replace and search, well, that's just the search window down here at the bottom. That's actually not the replace tool. Find, search and replace. Yeah, that opens up the old version. So it looks like that replace feature that I showed during the presentation is only available with the integrated flow and how it's tied into Databook. I mean, there's a good possibility that in the netless flow, they'll be updating that here in a coming release. So, all right, well, that's it for our questions so far. Looks like people are starting to leave. We've almost reached our hour time limit. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us, and please attend one of our future Did You Know webinars. Thank you very much.